The LA Clippers lost their second straight game to the Houston Rockets on Friday night, and it was in blowout fashion, the worst loss of the season. What made it so hard to compete with Houston in these last two games? And what does it say about the team? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 20th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper content. Went live directly after this game for a live reaction. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. I want you to let me know why you think we struggled against the Houston Rockets so much. It was a brutal defeat, 125-104. I'm going to be talking about all that in this one and talking about why it's so hard for us to win games when two of the three of Norm, Zoo, and Harden don't play well, and then touching on some of the minutes that we saw at the end of the game and if they can mean anything going forward. And I'll also be previewing very briefly the game on Sunday night. So the Houston Rockets beat us up. And I've talked about it so many times. The Houston Rockets matchups are all pretty important in my opinion this season because we can literally keep our pick if we do better than them. And look, they don't look like they're going to be a top 10 pick team this season because their pick is top 10 protected. They don't look like they're going to be a top 10 pick team this season. They're probably going to be a top 10 team in the West. So if that's the case, we better finish above them or OKC's taking our pick. And I can't have that. We struggled against them. We lost 125-104 after losing 111-103 on Wednesday night. And this one was even worse. And I think a lot of it was just a tale of we were generating a good amount of open looks and we just could not hit them. And they were hitting everything. And if you're wondering, how come the Clippers kept leaving them open for three? Well, in today's NBA, you have to make certain decisions on pick and roll reads defensively. And you got to give something up unless you have switch everything personnel, which we saw that we tried doing that the first day against them, the Wednesday game. We got crushed on the glass. Even though we had a good run with our small ball unit at the end of the game, that was in garbage time. Throughout the game, we were getting out-rebounded with a small lineup, with Zoo in, and offensively we were stagnant when we went to small ball. So in this game, Ty Lue actually played Kai Jones. He actually always had one of Kai Jones or Zubac in. Kai Jones played 11 minutes in this game. He had 4 points, 4 rebounds, and part of that was garbage minutes, though. We were already down by a lot. But the first quarter, we did not hit our shots. It was 29-21 after one. And they again had Alperen Şengün on Chris Dunn, who's started his second game. And then Jabari Smith Jr. on Zoo, so they can switch those pick and rolls whenever Zoo sets the screen. And they were also just going to live with Chris Dunn shooting wide open threes. And he's been good from three this season. But he was rough in this game. 1 for 7 from deep. If you combine that with Derrick Jones Jr., 1 for 10 from deep. Derrick Jones Jr. was 0 for 3 from 3 and 0 for 7 from the field. 2 points and 7 boards. So he's been really, really great. Unfortunate game for him. 1 for 10 between the two of those guys. And if you throw Norman Powell in that mix, 2 for 15 from 3. So we just did not have a great shooting game at all. We did generate a decent amount of open looks. Of course, not as many as them because their defense was better. And look, the Houston Rockets right now, they are going into that game, they were third in defensive rating in the NBA. Third in defensive rating. But you know what they weren't great at? And this is why I was trying to make that point about the three-pointers early on. The Houston Rockets are 26th in the league in three-point percentage. We're 8th. So giving them the wide open threes, as opposed to layups or dunks or whatever it may have been, that was part of the game plan based on actual data. Yes, could our defensive resistance have been better? Absolutely. I think these last 2 games we dropped off defensively. And I think it starts with some of our best guys. Terrence Mann, I think, could have been a little better. He was getting in foul trouble. Derrick Jones Jr., I remember got beat a little easier than I'm used to seeing a couple of times. And then Norman Powell, he wasn't good defensively in this game, whether it be individually or some moments in team defensive situations. And then James Harden was a little bit better defensively, but one of the fears of starting and playing Norman James Harden so much is that going to be too weak defensively? And Norman started out the season pretty well. Harden, last couple of weeks, has really fallen off defensively. And I think those two have to step it up. I mean, with James Harden, I don't expect anything on that end, really. But Norman Powell, I think he should definitely step up. And so, yeah, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. I think defensively we could have been a lot better. But I think offensively is where we struggled even more. We shot 38% from the field and 25% from 3, 79% from the foul line, but it's the Houston Rockets defense and partially our offense that we just know isn't very good. I think the athleticism of the Rockets really bothered us these last 2 games. And yes, we've gotten more athletic, but this is a different level when you got guys like Jabari Smith Jr., 6'10", lanky guy that's mobile. You got Dylan Brooks, really great point of attack defender. You have Jalen Green, athletic freak. Tari Eason, super athlete. Amen Thompson, super athlete. So, that was getting to us. They were able to push in transition, but they also still crushed us on the offensive glass. They just looked really, really athletic. Really, really athletic compared to us. So, I don't know. It's like they're just a rough matchup for us. And I'm just tempted to say that the matchup for them was too good. Like, they just looked like too good of a team. But I also think if you had asked me before the season, are your Clippers without Kawhi better than the Houston Rockets? I would have said no, they're not. So they're not. We aren't better than them without Kawhi. Like, our offense is just not good enough. It's so reliant on James Harden. And if you really think about it, Norman Powell as well. And they were top blocking Norm, and they have good point of attack defenders. So you're seeing, Norm's flaws. He's not a great shot creator individually. And when they're top blocking him, you're going to have to figure out counters. You're going to have to move without the ball. You're going to have to find a way to get going. And when you get on the ball more, you see Norm isn't super great at creating shots. And then as far as James Harden, it's like he has moments in games where he has like a stretch where he'll hit like a 3 and then a nice couple assists. Then he'll have other moments where he's foul baiting. I think there was 2 moments where Harden tried to get a foul and didn't get it. Norm 3 times tried to foul bait, got the foul twice somehow. But when those two are just trying to do that, I cannot stand watching it as a basketball fan. Forget the Clippers. As a basketball fan, I just can't stand it. Play basketball. It's going to come back to bite us down at times when you don't get those calls. And I thought James Harden's process was just so bad. Because when teams switch everything, it's going to force James Harden to play isolation basketball. And his process to me has always been horrific. Even though he makes that step back, sometimes, he used to always get the step back in the day, but I just think it's so stagnant. There's so much ball pounding. It's a lot of everybody just watching him. And that's part of why I just, not a huge fan of the style. But he's obviously been very good this season for us. That's separate from my opinion of his style. In terms of stylistic things I don't like, Kevin Porter Jr. as well, he actually played well. After basically I made the comment, is he going to get benched after Ty Lue didn't play him in the second half the other night? He was pretty good. 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists on 5 for 10 shooting, 3 for 5 from 3. So making his threes, and some of them were off the dribble. Only complaint I have is the free throws. He was 2 for 6 there. And then Nico Batum only played 4 minutes. I don't know how I feel about that. I know he's old. I know he's been struggling with his shot, but still, you don't just give up on Nico or shorten his minutes for me. But yeah, we just didn't get enough. James Harden was our leading scorer with 21 points. I thought he shot. One of the silver linings is that he's starting to shoot a little bit more efficiently. 3 ball in this game, he was 3 for 9, but he was 7 for 14 from the field, and he's been really struggling to shoot that well from the field so far this season. But he turned the ball over 5 times and only assisted twice. So, I don't think anyone on the team played well except for Kevin Porter Jr., and you could argue Chris Dunn because he had some good stretches defensively, and in the second half he was going at Şengün's chest. But the reason why they have Şengün guard done is because they don't fear him one-on-one, and they want to give him his open threes, and they want to switch the pick and rolls with Zubac and Harden. And anytime Zubac tries to get Şengün to switch onto him, Şengün will switch onto him, and we're usually deeper in the shot clock, so you have to go to work on him, and they're okay with that. So you got to give Ime Udoka a lot of credit. He really snuffed us out defensively. He had really athletic guys guarding James Harden, like Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks, Tari Eason, or whatever. And then they switched the pick and rolls with Zoo, try to take him away and push him further away from the basket, and then top block Norm. And it's no secret that Ime Udoka is one of the best defensive minds in the NBA. So moral of the story, they were just too good for us. They're too athletic for us. I think that they're a better team than us without Kawhi Leonard. I think that's my conclusion. Right now, they're third in the league in defensive rating, and we've dropped to 11th. So we're going to have to get that back up. I'll talk about the game on Sunday night. Not next, but later in the episode. Coming up, going to be speaking about the big three that we have of Norman Powell, Ivica Zubac, and James Harden, and just how hard it is to win games when they don't perform super well. Going to be talking about that coming up. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I got to give a shout out to my grandma. She's one of the most important people in my life. This month is all about gratitude. And along with the person I just shouted out, there's another person we don't get to thank enough. Ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, that isn't easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. Therapy, it's hard for some people to, accept the fact that they might need some help. And looking within is very important. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right. So the Clippers losing 125-104. Look, it's going to be very hard to win games when two of the three, the big three, as I'm calling them right now, Zoo, Norman, Harden. If two of them play poorly, we're not going to win against good teams, especially when everybody else misses every shot. Zubac, I have to say, he really disappointed me in these two games. He kind of reverted back to that inconsistent Zoo that we've seen throughout the years, where one game he looks like a world beater and other games he looks very poor. And I think the thing that bothered him was actually putting those smaller guys on him, which is very unfortunate. I mean, Jabari Smith is a really tall player, but he did not do a good enough job of Ivica Zubac of catching the ball deep, close to the basket, and dominating. He was smoking a lot of chippies. 6 points, 11 rebounds on 2 for 7 shooting, and he played 30 minutes. That's not good enough. 2 for 7. So Zoo did not have a good game in either game. But the one thing I don't like is that sometimes we go away from him because he missed a couple of shots. James Harden gets to run pick and roll after pick and roll or isolation after isolation, even when he's playing badly. Norman Powell never stops shooting. We got to continue to feed Zoo and treat him like a star. Even if he's playing poorly, you got to trust him towards the end of a game. But that being said, he needs to be better. Wasn't good enough. He did not take advantage of smaller guys. He allowed Houston to get away with putting a small on him. And Jabari Smith Jr. isn't necessarily a small, but when we switched, he didn't have an advantage, really. Norman Powell, he just missed a lot of good looks, but teams are going to start top blocking him, making sure he doesn't come off for that curl. It's going to be on scouting reports. How will he counter that? 8 points for him, just 8, on 3 for 11 shooting and 1 for 5 from 3. After having an incredible start to the season, these last 2 games were Norman Powell's lowest scoring games of the season back-to-back, which is not coincidental. You have to give the Houston Rockets a lot of credit for that. He's averaging 24 points a game on 49% shooting still, and 48% from 3. So he's still having an incredible season. I did say he'd probably be more around the 22, 23 point per game average. So we'll just keep an eye out on that. But he didn't play well. And then James Harden, he had good moments, but 5 turnovers, terrible process offensively, foul baiting here and there. It just wasn't good enough. And by the way, this was our first game in NBA Cup play. So the Emirates Cup, first game of the group stage, we got trounced. And it's funny because our first win of the NBA Cup last season was James Harden's first win, that step back 4-point play that he had. I have a vlog of that on my channel, Dime Dropper channel. It was such a fun one. But yeah, when 2 out of those 3 players don't play well, and I would say in this game, I don't think any of them played well, we're not going to win. It's very simple. Now, how do we, get them to play better? I think when it comes to the top blocking thing with Norm, he's got to try to just back cut it straight up. The thing is that Zubac's man, what will happen is Zubac's man will help on that. Will drop to take away Norman Powell's back cut because they know Zubac is not a shooter. So if you get Zu the ball on the wing after setting that screen, it's not always it's not necessarily a layup or a wide open jump shot that's going to be taken. So how do we counter that? I'd say maybe when Norm back cuts, he goes around to the other side of the court, and then we kind of get into a pick and roll with the Zoo cleared out on that side that Norm has just vacated. I think that might be the best counter, but we'll see. I think that's something to keep an eye out on, and then you're gonna have to see Norman Powell create a little bit more on the ball. I've never seen, unless you're like Reggie Miller, averaging that many points strictly being off the ball like that. Steph Curry has on ball as well. It's not just the off ball. Ray Allen, in Boston, he wasn't averaging 20-something points, but in Seattle, when he was on ball, it was a little different. So, we just have to see. James Harden, the good news with James Harden is a couple more efficient games the last couple of games. But, I don't know. He's just looked older this season, but maybe the shooting is the big thing. If he can just start hitting the jumper better, the threes more, things will change. And then let's talk about the closing. I'll read some of the lines. I already talked about Derrick Jones, 0 for 7 from the field, just 2 points. I've talked about all the starters. Chris Dunn did have 13 points on 6 for 13 shooting, so he was actually 5 for 6 from 2, but 1 for 7 from 3. We saw Bones Highland for a bit. We saw Jordan Miller for a bit. We saw Kobe Brown, but before I talk about them, Terrence Mann, just a pedestrian in this one again. Not good enough at all. Too many fouls. He had 2 fouls early, but 2 points, 4 rebounds on 1 for 4 shooting, 0 for 1 from 3 in 13 minutes. And in the second half, Terrence was the last one to come off the bench. He had a great game on Wednesday. He's got to be good on Sunday. It's Utah, the team he loves to play against. If he's not good there, I'm going to start getting even more worried. Amir Coffey was okay. 10 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal on 3 for 7 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3, 3 for 3 from the foul line. KPJ, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists on 5 for 10 shooting, 3 for 5 from 3, 2 for 6 from the foul line. And then Jordan Miller, 11 points on 1 for 3 shooting, 0 for 1 from 3. But get this, 9 for 10 from the foul line in 10 minutes. The guy is a foul magnet. And again, I have to be serious. Right now, from just the sound of things and just my general vibe, if there's a player that Jordan Miller replaces in the rotation, it's going to be Terrence right now. Because KPJ offers a little more on-ball creation, and Ty Lue likes that. Jordan Miller, his deceleration ability to stay and ability to stay on balance with those long 2 steps at the end when he's at the basket is crazy. And the way he draws contact, everyone's been clamoring for him. Is he ready? I wouldn't be opposed to trying. But coming up, going to be talking about the game on Sunday night. We're back home, ladies and gentlemen. Will you be there? I will. Let's talk about what the keys are to win. Coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Now, as far as FanDuel and the NFL, this weekend, or this Sunday, we've got Rams at Pats. Minus 4.5 the Rams are. Then the Chargers, they are at SoFi. Play the Bengals. They're minus 1.5. Where do you go for that? Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Clippers, Jazz, Sunday night. Can we get back to 500? We're 6-7 now. Shot really poorly the last couple of games, so hopefully we're back home. Get a little feel, or what's the word? More familiarity and get our shots back on track. The Jazz currently are the worst team in the Western Conference with a record of 3-9. I mean, let's get it done. There's no excuse. We should beat them. No doubt about it. I honestly haven't watched the Jazz play once this season. I can't lie. They haven't played the Lakers. They haven't played the Clippers. So, and I'm not going to go out of my way to watch them. So, we just got to win it. We just got to win it. They'll have a starting lineup of like Keontae George, Walker Kessler, those guys. Wonder if Lauri Markkanen plays. I'm really interested to see how Zubac handles Walker Kessler. Like, is he going to block his shot? Is he going to be strong? We'll just have to see. Last game, by the way, Jabari Smith had 28 points and 11 rebounds. Like, they had a lot of big individual performances. So I think a lot of the key for us is if we get stops, we can get out and run and get some easier buckets. That's the main key. Can we get stops? But our offense is the biggest question mark consistently. So, I mean, I wish I could tell you a little bit more about the Jazz this season. I mean, I can look up some of the averages, but let's see. Defensive rating-wise, they're worst in the league. So they have the worst defense in the league. So that means even though our offense is 22nd, their offense is also 27th. I mean, that's the epitome of a terrible team. They're bottom 5 in both categories. So, I mean, we got to score. And if we score, we set our defense, everything changes. They also have the highest turnover percentage in the league. Like, let's turn them over. Let's get out and run, and let's run them out the gym. Let's have our first real blowout in the Intuit Dome era. Why not? Like a Clipper home game blowout. I think we need it. Every single Clipper game this season, except for the Philly win and the Rockets loss, the just most recent one, was a single-digit game, and the OKC loss. 3 of our first 13 games have been double-digit losses or double-digit outcomes. Every other one, single digits, which tells you, because of the way we play, our defense is so good that we stay in games, but our offense isn't good enough to take, build separation. But we're back home Sunday night, Utah, one of our arch nemesis. I think we get it done. I think we hopefully win in commanding fashion and we get Norman Powell back on track. I think that's the one thing I want to see in terms of a player. Let's get Norm back on track. I'd love to get Zoo back on track and have a good Terrence game, and I'll be there. So holler at me if you see me. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Comment on the video. What made us struggle so much against Houston, in your opinion? And, of course, Locked On Clippers has a daily newsletter. Sign up at LockedOnDaily.com. Your boy writes it, so really helps it out. So the age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.